Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Back Room. I'm Andy Ostroy. Very excited today to talk with Adam Frisch. Adam ran for the Colorado 3rd Congressional District seat that currently is held by Republican Lauren Boebert. He ran against her in the midterms in 2022. He lost by just 546 votes. Thankfully, Adam has decided to run again in 2024. He is a local businessman, a family man, and spent 8 years as a councilman. Adam, welcome into The Back Room.
Good afternoon, morning, day, Andy.
Yeah, you're in Colorado, so it's a couple hours behind us. So, and we do this early, so we appreciate you getting up early. Before we get into the meat of the politics, what we try to do is give a little bit of an insight in the person that we're interviewing, and get a little window into the soul. So we have a couple of questions. One we ask up front, one we ask at the end of the interview. But the first one is kind of silly, but it's, are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog.
Dog. Well, you
We
said
got a
that.
bird dog.
Uh-huh.
We don't do much hunting, but I got Padme. She needs about 4 or 5 hours of exercise a day.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't grow up being a dog person, but fully committed with the family now with the dog.
Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a cat in your life?
Nope, there has not. No offense. It's
And it
not so
sounds
much
like there never
anti-cat.
will
I'm just
be.
pro-dog.
Sounds like
No,
there's never
probably
going to be a
not.
cat in your life.
I would. No, that's fair bet. Fair bet, Andy.
Where did you grow up?
So it's interesting. I was born and spent my first 5 years on an Indian reservation in northeastern Montana. Both my parents are from northern Minnesota, but my dad went out to the north, I would call it like the North Dakota, Montana, Canada border. Pretty cold, pretty rural, but he wanted to get his hands in right away on the deep end of being in medicine. And there was an opening with the public health service out there in the late 60s. I'm 55. And so he started working out there. Then he became an OBGYN back in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. And so my first 5 years were out there, and two of my three sisters were born out there as well. And then I grew up in Minneapolis
Mm-hmm.
from kindergarten through high school, and my misspent youth was spent ski racing. And that's how I ended up going out to the University of Colorado later on.
Mm-hmm. I think the coldest day I ever spent in my life was the day I was in Minneapolis once. It was like
I
25 below
remember some,
zero or something, and I
yeah,
couldn't believe how cold it was. And I was like, people actually
and
live
that's
here.
before the wind chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so you had a finance career in New York. I mean, you have a business background, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up ski racing, went out to the University of Colorado at Boulder to do some ski racing. I got hurt a little bit and decided to stay for obvious reasons. Boulder is beautiful. The state of Colorado is beautiful. Obviously, I'm back in that state. I went out to New York City with one of my best buds I grew up with who was chasing a gal from college and started off waiting tables for about a year in New York City and kind of fell into finance and banking. And I worked on one of the first investment managements on kind of investing on a socially responsible investing fund. And then the heart of my time in New York City was involved in the currency markets,
Mm-hmm.
foreign exchange. I spent a lot of time actually in Asia and the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa. There's about 200 currencies in the world, and I traded the 190 small ones. So it was fun. I traveled the world. I was single. I was able to, I was paid fairly well to kind of know what's going on in the world politically and economically at these places.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great fun. And I love my time in New York City, but ended up um, going through a lot of 9/11 funerals, and I happened to be on the top floor, 100th floor of the World Trade Center in 1993 when that terrorist attack happened. So I had a couple close calls and figured it'd be time to kind of head out west again, and ended up meeting a gal in the western slope of Colorado whose name is Katie. And now we've been married for coming on 20 years, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a 15-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son. Uh, she's a washed up ski racer as well and a washed up banker, and we're making our lives in the mountains of Colorado. I spent 8 years on the city council in my town of Aspen, and she is currently finishing up her 4-year run on as an elected member of our school board
Mm-hmm.
in the school district.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the World Trade Center thing. 'Cause I read that you also finished the Boston Marathon about 20 minutes before the bombs went off.
Yeah, I know. I try not to tell people you might want to stand too close to me.
That was my
Yeah, I
first
think that was
thought.
yeah, I think it was
Travel with a
2013.
bomb
I'd
squad if you're
done
hanging out with Adam.
yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I crossed, I ran the Boston Marathon in about 3:15 or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Wow.
About 15 minutes before that, a bomb went off right at the finish line, and it definitely killed some amount of people, and it was kind of a convoluted situation about what happened there. So, I've had a couple close calls in my life, and I consider myself lucky. And when you have those kind of uh, somewhat near misses, you start to make sure that your priorities are straight. And obviously, family number one, friends number two, and making sure that there's places to give back when you can. And my city council time was elected community service, as I called it. This whole thing in Congress attempt is a whole different ball of wax, but I
Hmm.
still look at it through that prism of just trying to help out. And it might sound hokey, but it's sincere.
No, look, public service is a very noble thing for people to get involved in. Certainly, they don't do it for the money, although I think some people end up having done it for the money,
Yeah.
as we know. So the race, which was a real heartbreaker, it was for me. I can't
Yeah.
imagine how it was for you. But you lost by
Yeah.
546 votes. Mike, I gotta ask, Boebert, Lauren Boebert she's crazy. She's evil. She's incompetent. She is not doing anything for her constituents. What went wrong in that campaign? How did she
Well,
win
I mean,
again?
I think we spent 98% of our time focused on the last part, that she's not focused on the district. She's focused on herself. We let her own antics, how she does and what she says, to kind of speak for itself. I think most people know that out there. About a year and a half ago, Andy, I looked at some statistics from the 2020 election and saw that of all these extremists on the right, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know them, your listeners know them, they all had 65 to 75% wins in 2020. And Lauren Boebert only got 51% of the vote in 2020. To be fair to her, I guess, when we ran in 2022, the district had been reshuffled, and it went from R5 to R10, which means theoretically the Republican cantaloupe was supposed to beat the Democratic cantaloupe by 10 points. But I knew that the view was, I think about 30 to 40% of the Republican Party wants their party back. People want the circus to stop. They want someone to focus on their district. And I thought that if a moderate slash conservative Democrat could get by the Democratic primary, which wouldn't be easy, and it wasn't, I thought I could build a coalition. My mom calls it the pro-normal party coalition of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. Our district is less than a quarter Democrat, about 31, 32% Republican, and over 40% independent or unaffiliated, which I was for 20 years. And I just thought that if we just worked really, really hard, which we did. My son is 17 years old. He was 16 at the time. He's a junior in high school. He took a year off from his high school to work in the campaign full time and go online school. And he and I had a 24,000-mile father-son road trip.
Hmm.
And we just drove all over. Our district is gigantic. It's half the state of Colorado. It's very, very rural. We have 27 counties. All the counties are rural. And I just thought that people, again, especially the ranchers and farmers and small business owners in mostly small towns in southern and western Colorado, they just want the circus to stop, and they want someone to focus on the job. And it's very, very apparent that she's not focused on the job. And so that was our mantra when we started. And no, very, very few people believed us in the media. The Republicans thought we were a joke. A lot of Democrats thought we were a joke, but we just persevered. And I just knew in my heart that we could do it. And we ended up losing by 546 votes. So on one hand, we had a moral victory. 538, the website that's very involved in numbers and statistics on politics, they had us losing by over 40,000 votes, and we lost by fewer than 550.
Right.
And I just think computers don't tell the psychology of people who, again, they want the circus to stop, and they want someone to focus on their job, no matter how many reds or blues there are in a
Hmm.
district. They're not red people, blue people, they're people. And the conversations that they're having around their kitchen table, literally and figuratively, are not what the Representative Bobart has been spending time on since she became a national figure in 2020.
But yet there were still so many people that thought she should remain in office, which is kind of, I mean, I don't want to put you in a spot where you talk, pejoratively or negatively about your constituents, which would obviously make a lot of sense. But it does speak to something, even a larger issue, not just Colorado's third, but just there's still, after everything we know, after all we've seen, there's still such a huge part of this population that thinks these people belong in office. Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah, so there's two buckets of conversation I respond back to on that, and it's a fair question. And I think one is the Democratic brand is incredibly damaged in rural Colorado and with working class people across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend a lot of time talking about this, and I try to tell as many people that will listen when I'm in DC or down in Denver or around the district. Andy, there's about 3,150 counties in the country. 2,000 of those are deemed rural by the Department of Ag on density population. Of those 2,000 counties, Bill Clinton in 1996 won more than half of these rural counties. Barack Obama in 2012 won 25% of them. And then Joe Biden, with due respect to President Biden, in 2020 won fewer than 10% of the rural counties in the country. And so I have this joke, which is sad but true, that the Democratic Party has kind of turned into 20 big cities, Aspen and Nantucket. Like that's the only thing that's left of the heart of the Democratic Party. And it's to me, it's less about the issues that the Democratic Party have been working on that should help working class America, the unions, labor, and rural America.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been some Hall of Fame foot and mouth comments from some important people that have come out over the past 10 or 15 years. There was a comment from someone running for president at the time, Barack Obama, who talked about these people clinging to their guns and religion, and that set off a lot of people. And with respect to Hillary Clinton, she talked about either running the coal miner jobs out of business or shutting down the coal mines or we're going to get rid of coal mines. And
Right.
then her ultimate doozy was this basket of deplorables comment that she made. And my view is before people can open up page 847 of a 2,000-page tax bill and see these benefits are going to help them and their family and their community, they're going to hear their dignity challenged
Mm-hmm.
and their way of life challenged, that they don't have enough education, that they happen to work in a natural gas field in Western Colorado, of which I'm pretty sure the workers there use a lot less energy per capita than some of the most urban voters that are represented by some of these representatives that are calling for an end to coal and gas right away. Of course, there's a climate crisis going on. Of course, we need to continue to move over and make the transition, but we need to do it respectfully, and I mean that sincerely.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a lot. That's a bucket of something that needs to happen. And I've joked, or not joked, and I'm not a political scientist. Those three or four comments and a couple others have cost the Democrats 25 seats for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe. Felix and I met literally thousands of people in 800-person towns and small cafes, places like Nuclear at the Fifth Street Cafe, and talking to people and meeting plumbers and electricians that were making $60 an hour, and now they're making $17 an hour, and they don't need job training because they're doing the same type of skill of being a plumber or electrician or master mechanic, and that shift has not set the Democratic Party up well, not from a policy standpoint, but from how do you talk to people on a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
And until that changes, it's going to be really, really hard to get people to switch or move over. Or even as I asked them, like, you don't even need to switch parties. Just think about your family and your business
Mm-hmm.
and yourself at this part of the district. Um, and so that's something's out there and I would call that rightful resentment, frustration about that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
And
it's
that's my
unfathomable
biggest
that
hurdle going around.
it's unfathomable that the Democratic Party lost the white working class, because there's nothing that the Republican Party stands for or has legislated ever that supports the white working class. But what you're saying is
Yeah,
100% true, and if you combine that with the culture wars, it's like a witch's brew. It creates this landscape where the white working class is like, they believe that the Democratic Party looks down on me, is arrogant, they don't care about me, and they want to put cat litter in my kid's bathroom at school. And how do you
yeah,
fight
yeah.
that?
And
Because it's
again, that
messaging that works really well for the Republicans, and it's apparently been very harmful to Democrats.
very, again, I mentioned before, I think 30 to 40% of the Republican Party wants their party back. I can have conversations with those men and women and families. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the conversations that I have. They're at the Chamber of Commerce's, they're civic leaders in their
Mm-hmm.
community. Um, the cultural warriors are people I'm not going to be able to relate to, and I don't spend any time talking to. And
Mm-hmm.
um, when you're in a district that's 24% Democrat, you don't want to spend time on Team Red or Team Blue. It is Team America, which is 70%, and extremism, which is 30%.
Mm-hmm.
And we're building a tripartisan Team America coalition, and we did. That was the plan from day one, and we came about 99.85% of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
We lost by 0.16% of the vote, 5,000 some odd numbers that were cast.
Mm-hmm.
And so, on one hand, we had a huge moral victory. On the other hand, we want to have a victory, make sure someone is sitting in that Colorado's third district seat that actually focuses on the job.
Mm-hmm. So
And
when you're
again,
out
a good
talking
chunk here are pragmatic.
when you're out talking to what and I read that you sometimes refer to it as your tripartisan coalition. When you're out talking to the moderate Republicans and the independents and even Democrats, what are the issues that you talk to them about that you think Republicans are not talking to them about, that Boebert certainly isn't serving them on, that helps you pick up just a small percent of that 40? If you just get a few percentage points, right? I mean, people talk about, moderates and independents, but it's all you need, all any Democrat needs is just a few points of those people combined with their own constituents to have victory. So what do you say to those people? What are the issues most important to you that you believe are most important to them in Colorado 3?
No, and we stuck to the issues, and she's not focused on it. The big issue is that she's not focused on the job, and she's leading this circus. She's leaving this entertainment industry of politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's the top line issues. The number one issue in Western and Southern Colorado, and has been for a long time, and national people might underappreciate that, is just water. The lack of availability of water for ranchers and farmers and recreation and conservationists, and everyone in Western and Southern Colorado is on that. And water does not run red or blue. And so that's a pure competency question and who wants to focus on it, as opposed to focusing on the goblins and ghosts committees of the oversight committee or whoever else Bobart and some Matt Gates are chasing up. And the rural aspects of healthcare, the rural aspects of education,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to some of those national issues about prices are too high
Mm-hmm.
and safety, even in some of these small towns. But we really focus on the things that are specific to CD3. And again, it's water. It's making sure that we have a healthy domestic energy production as we migrate over to cleaner fuels. But we produce the cleanest coal, we produce the cleanest solar, we produce the cleanest wind and hydro, and so we need all of the above in this part of the district. So those are the issues that resonate with a lot of people. And I ask the people I'm talking to, left, right, and center, who do you want representing you, your family, your business, and your community? And I don't care how you voted in 2016. I don't really care who you vote for on the ballot,
Mm-hmm.
up and down the ballot. I just ask you to think about your representative. Who do you want fighting and advocating on behalf of those constituents of yourself and your family in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
on behalf of Colorado while you're in DC?
How do you
And that
deal?
resonates.
How do you address the turnout situation? Democrats came out less than Republicans. Turnout is everything. How do you get the vote out so that this time
Yeah.
you win?
Yeah, so last time, I think, sadly, if we would have run the race a week later, we probably would have won by a couple thousand votes. There were a bunch of moderate Republicans that never voted for a non-Republican before, that left it blank because they thought we were going to lose by a lot, and just they didn't vote for her because they don't care for her, and they left it blank. That undervoting happened a lot. But we also had a bunch of very liberal Democrats that also thought we didn't have a chance and thought I was too moderate, too conservative, and they left it home blank, and they felt bad about that as well. And so we expect going into 2024, there's going to be 30% more people voting on whole, especially in Colorado. We expect the Democratic voters rolls to go up more than the Republican votes in Colorado. Having said that, we still need to build a coalition of this tripartisanship. And because there's just not enough Democrats, no matter what the turnout is, we're going to have to continue to build this coalition. But there's obviously going to be one third more people voting And that's going to require just more driving of miles, more fundraising to make sure that we can get our message out next summer and fall on the airwaves and via social media.
I mean, the conventional wisdom would sort of dictate that because you came so close and that things are only getting worse nationally with the Republican Party, Boebert's not changing. She's only getting more radicalized and more ineffective and incompetent. That if you do keep doing what you've done before and build on that and expand your coalition, that the momentum should be with you, that you should win this time because there's nothing that your opponent is going to do to help her cause, and her party's not going to do anything. In fact, they're going to do everything humanly possible to make at least 547 more people say it's time for Adam Frisch. Is that reality? Is that naive to think that the momentum, you got that close, this time you're going to win?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we decided to get back in this race officially so soon is that we had a lot of great momentum. And I spent December and January driving around the state, listening to farmers and ranchers. And to them, they're really disappointed, even those that voted for her, that she didn't learn her lesson. No lack of humility, no showing of humility about having almost the most embarrassing loss in 20 years anywhere in the country, and that she's again not focused on the job. She should be getting on the water. She should be getting on the agricultural committee, which is really important to our district. Instead of that, she used whatever political capital she earned during the whole circus that first week and wanted to use her chits to get on the oversight committee, which nobody in CD3 cares about. It's water, ranching, farming, ag, domestic energy, trying to tackle inflation, and chasing up someone's, yelling at Twitter executives about why they don't have more followers in their personal account
Mm-hmm.
is not helping anyone in the district. So we didn't want to make this a surprise election. We did make it a surprise election last year. They'll obviously take us seriously. Everyone is taking us seriously in that race. So we are going to have a hard journey ahead of us, but we like where we are. And again, we still think our overall theme, she's not focused on the job and people want the circus to stop. And I'm a safe, trusted hand that can represent everybody, not just ours, not just D's. That's the theme that we think is going to lead us to success. We needed, the data showed we needed about 2 more weeks of the campaign and we probably would have won.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to kind of continue that on and also have a longer time to tell a story about why people should be voting for us and not just against her. There's obviously a lot of reasons to vote against her, but we want to tell a positive story about what I'm focused on and
Right.
what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
where my interests are. And we think that's going to be very receptive to a lot of people, regardless of party affiliation.
Mm-hmm. After you announced, again, you saw a big spike in fundraising. How has fundraising been going in the last few weeks overall?
Yeah, so we just, we literally started about 2.5 weeks ago. We raised over $250,000 in the first 24 hours, $500,000. We're over $800,000 in fundraising already as we sit here at the end of the week on Friday, and we're excited about that. We think, I don't say this with pride because I don't like the money in politics with sincerity, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a necessary evil to make sure we get our message out. And, she's going to have a lot of support from the national party, and we'll continue to generate our money. And we've had, we got donations the first day from 50 different states and all 27 our counties. There's a lot of people around the country that want to see her gone. But most importantly, I'm just continually focused on the men and the women and the families in the business of Western and Southern Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So we're off to a good start. Sadly, we always need more resources um, to have this journey to see Lauren Boebert defeated, but we like our momentum and our path forward.
She's considered to be one of the most, if not the most vulnerable member of the House going into 24. Do you think that's going to help you attract more support from the party, the DNC, the PACs? I know you had some support from the PACs because money, it is an evil, but it's a necessary evil.
Yeah. So we're not taking any corporate PAC money. We never have, and we're not planning. And we're
Mm-hmm.
not doing it this cycle. But there has been support from issue organizations that have been helpful for us. And yeah, no, we tried to tell a bunch of people last year that we really do have a chance. And sadly, I don't say this with pride, we're the only ones that have any chance of defeating an extremist. If you look at, with all due respect, whoever's going to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and Paul Gosar and Andy Biggs, none of them have any chance of losing. And so, not to deflate a wider movement, but we're just really focused on this district, and we think that we have the only place where we're going to have a really great emotional win for the country, not just a real win. And so there's a lot of awareness about how well we did, and there's a lot of support across the country. And obviously, when you get 49.85% of them in a district that's 24% D, by definition, we truly built a tripartisan coalition, and we're seeing that in the support as well as in the votes.
Hmm. Well, I am a big fan, big supporter, and will continue to do so. I will move mountains if I can to get you elected and her out of office. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Is there a website that people can go to if they want to learn more about Adam Frisch and part with some of their cash?
Yeah, no, there's a couple things. Thanks, Andy. Adamforcolorado.com, FORADAM, Colorado.com is our website and our portal. And so there's a donate button somewhere up in the top right, probably. So click that. Literally the $5 and $10 are
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And the 25s up to you can donate a couple $1,000 and more. But, the breadth of support is important as the depth of any individual contribution. There's also a button up there to help us to volunteer. We had
Mm-hmm.
we had people trying to help us all through the cycle from literally around the country. This is a national race. I don't say that with pride. Again, I'm laser focused on issues that affect Western and Southern Colorado. Having said that, there's a lot of people around the country that are in a lot of safe districts that have the time and the money to kind of move their resources, again, time or money elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And people have been very, very generous with that. So please sign up for our emails, our web updates, and we'll stay in touch with you and figure out how to help us defeat a true extremist, and sadly the only one that has any chance of losing in the 24 cycle.
Mm-hmm. And you seem like a pretty scandal-free guy from what I have been able to read. I just want to make sure there's no videotapes out there of you like calling up the election officials and saying, I just need to find 547 votes, which is one more than what we had. Like,
Yeah.
there's not going to be anything like that that comes forward.
No, listen, we got fleshed out last year. I'll talk about the low part and then the high part. The low part was, she came up with some cockamamie accusations of an affair and blackmail and da 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 da. But I'm not sure if it helped or hurt her in this whole thing. So she got very, very desperate as we started to get very, very close. So that's all been fleshed out. I assume there's going to be more lies made up about us, about me, and we'll just have to deal with that. That's one of the things that we had a long conversation with my wife and our two kids
Mm-hmm.
about that. But everyone agreed that we thought it was really important for us to kind of go forward at the start of this, knowing there was going to be something coming. On the opposite scandal, at the end of the race last year, it was the Friday after the week, 10 days later after campaign, we conceded when we were down by 550 votes because we just knew the election laws of Colorado were locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some people that were frustrated about that, but it proved our point. They recounted 300,000 ballots and 4 votes changed.
Mm-hmm.
But we told people at that time, that Friday afternoon, to keep your money. We had a couple $100,000 in the bank to fight elections. People started to try to raise money off of us. Lauren Boebert wanted to raise a bunch of money that she did not need for this recount either.
Mm-hmm.
And I told people as we enter the holiday seasons, keep that money for your family. If we run again, we'll come back and have a longer conversation about that. And that received a lot of support. It was not any type of political ploy. It was just what we believed, and that's how I run. And that earned us a lot of kudos from a lot of people, including a lot
Mm-hmm.
of Republicans emailed me all over the country and said, I can't believe anybody running for office would ever turn down money, and told people to just keep it. But there's more than enough money in politics to get the job done, and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we need the money, we ask for it. When we don't need the money, we don't ask for it.
My last
But now we
question.
need the money.
Well, hopefully people are going to listen to this podcast and send some. And I know there's people in New York and other places around the country that really support you and want to see you defeat her. My last question is another window into the soul type question. Music is an important part of people's lives and a good window into the soul. So I want to know, who are your top 5 musical artists of all time?
Yeah. Listen, if I could drop out of life and just follow Bob Dylan around the world, around the country, I would do that. My fellow Minnesotan, I've seen him perform 40 or 50 times in probably 50
Bobby
different
Z.
states. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love lyrics. I love words. There's a Churchill conversation to be had about that later on, but I spend a good amount of my time from that standpoint. I think I love my time with Neil Young on the radio as well, and on my headphones. Uh, Traffic and Blind Faith,
Mm-hmm.
going back a little bit. But as far as my favorite group, it's a combination of those two. For those that you probably know, there's obviously a lot of intersectionality between Stevie Winwood and Ginger Baker and that whole crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lucinda Williams. I am a huge Lucinda fan. I think Wheels on a Gravel Road is one of the top albums of all time, and I love her career, and I've had a chance to see her a couple times. So I think those rounded up. I should probably listen to some new music that my kids are listening to, but
Eh,
I am I am stuck with, the amount of artistic inspiration that happened in the 60s and 70s to me still rocks hard, and I just love
I'm
that music.
1,000,000% with you on that. So we'll end on that. Adam, you've been very generous with your time. We wish you a lot of luck in the campaign. Hopefully you'll come again soon and give us an update on how things are going, and appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thanks, Andy. Love your podcast and love the exposure that we're able to come in here and share some of our journeys. So you stay healthy and safe, and we'll stay in touch.
You too, man. Take care. That's episode 49. If you like what you've been hearing, and even if you don't, let us know. We appreciate the feedback. You can leave us a message at 845-307-7446. Email us at backroomandy@gmail.com or tweet to me at Andy Ostroy. And when you listen, please take a moment to rate and review. Those things are very helpful. I want to thank my co-producer, engineer, and editor, Matty Rosenberg, associate producer, Jen Hammoud, Cricket Langell for our artwork, Andy Hollander for our kick-ass music, Patricia Wind and the Epicurean for the Backroom Studio, and a big thank you again to our guest, Adam Frisch. So keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, in your own backyards, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great week.